So yeah, getting this thing started, just give us a little bit about what you do online, why you do it, and where this all comes from.
Um, what I do online is every Sunday I do an open Zoom meeting where I start with a 30-minute guided meditation, and that's followed by Q&A for about an hour and a half for explorations, whatever people want to explore. And I also do online retreats sometimes, or live streams from in-person retreats. And then I have a YouTube channel with clips online of parts of that.
Mm-hmm.
And what it's about is really, it's an invitation to open to the deeper essence of who we are, beyond mind, beyond experience, beyond emotions, and to recognize through direct experience ourselves as pure awareness, which is fundamentally who we are before anything else. And why? Because that brings with it a deep sense of peace, fulfillment, joy, and it allows us then to live in a way in the material world, in the world of form, in a way that's aligned with that understanding, and that brings a lot of beauty into the material world and a lot of harmony, whereas maybe before this realization, when there's identification with the conceptual self, there can be a lot of drama and chaos and suffering and confusion. So for me, it's really the most important discovery that a human being can make in this lifetime. And I really love sharing these teachings to anyone that's interested in it. So I feel blessed that I'm able to do this for my work in this way. I say this like this because it doesn't feel like work. It just, I love to do it. That's why I do it.
Mm-hmm. I see. Yeah, so can you explain to someone that doesn't know any better, how does that bring more harmony and beauty to this quote unquote material world? You know, how do we I guess bring the beauty into the world? Like how could you explain that?
So most people are seeking, and they're seeking happiness, even if they're doing something that we might class as evil, like robbing a bank or committing crimes. There's a seeking in that too. There's a belief that when I get that, when I do that, it's going to bring me something better than this moment. It's going to bring me an improvement. It's going to bring me something more. And it's that seeking mechanism that creates a constant sense of unease or dissatisfaction in the system. So when we stop seeking and we become still, and we give that up and we look just to this moment and what's here now, initially it might feel incredibly uncomfortable. That's what most people experience when they first stop and become still. Many times they'll initially experience a sense of boredom or agitation. But if there's a capacity to stay present with that and surrender to that and open up to that, then that becomes a gateway to this deeper stillness that's here, that which underlies the experience. And it's that deep presence, deep stillness, that brings with it a sense of fulfillment, a deep relaxation into the present moment, into beingness. And that running mode of trying to get to the future then falls away. So the satisfaction comes from within in this moment, and it's not dependent on external circumstances. And that's what brings freedom, because we no longer need anything to find happiness. Happiness is already here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's interesting that you say even people that, rob a bank or commit some kind of atrocity, they're chasing happiness as well. Like innately, every single human being, that's what we yearn for. We just don't really know how to go about it per se. It's very interesting. So you really do believe that like innately, like our birthright is, being a human being is to be happy, is to be peaceful, is to be harmonious with this experience itself, right? Is that the gist of being a human?
I think the gist of being a human is maybe forgetting that and then the play of remembering it.
So we have to forget in a way.
Most people don't remember it, or they know it at a very early age, but then due to the environmental circumstances and conditioning of our current society and the level of consciousness we're at in the collective, a disconnect from it happens for some at a very young age, for some a bit later, especially if they're born into a loving environment. So then it's like finding the way back home. And many people start that search back home because they suffer so much. And there's a feeling of emptiness in life, or recognition that, I got the money, the house, the car, and everything that I was told will bring me happiness, and I'm still not happy. So then that can ignite a spiritual seeking, a seeking for God, for the divine, something deeper.
Mm-hmm.
And for those people, suffering becomes a blessing.
Yep. Yeah. Is that what happened to you?
I think, like most people, there was always a subtle sense of unease or discomfort or a sense of unfulfillment in life. If you'd have asked me when I was younger, are you happy? I probably would have said yeah, because I didn't even know that I was unhappy.
Mm.
But for me, I did start to question, what is the meaning of all this? What is the purpose of this life? I could recognize some meaninglessness in what I saw around me, some emptiness and a kind of a curiosity, wondering if there's something deeper, if there's just a wonderment. Where did all this stuff come from? What is all this stuff? Who am I? And this curiosity led me to this path.
Yeah. Yeah. I believe that. Curiosity and wonder at the mystery of all this stuff. It's so important. Yet most of us are afraid to embrace that. I feel like it's almost counterintuitive. Like most human beings, not judging, I'm just stating an observation here. Even from personal experience, um, we're reluctant to go headfirst into the mystery, right? But it's almost like that's kind of what we have to do in order to find peace. Like you have to ask the questions, have a little bit of self inquiry in order to be able to, like you said, find out what's a little bit deeper, what is kind of the deeper layers of this whole experience, right? So why do you think we're reluctant to that? Like what holds us back? Do we just not suffer enough? Do we all have to reach our breaking point per se in order to actually, I don't want to say get through the suffering, but maybe like see the suffering in a different light? Like, does it have to reach like a certain point in one's life in order for them to say, all right, there's got to be another way?
I see humans a bit like apples, and the apples are all growing on the tree, and some of them reach a point of maturity when they're ripened and they're ready to drop before others.
Mm.
And it's kind of like nature. Like if you look at everything in nature, there's a process of cycles and maturing. So I think in a natural way, in human evolution, a soul, you could say, reaches a point in one lifetime where it's the right moment. There's a ripeness there, a readiness there, and then something triggers that, either suffering or a sense of curiosity. That inquiry is triggered, and it opens up in the right moment. So it's not helpful to try to make an apple ripen before it's its time, because if you pick it, it will just be sour. So some people have the idea that we need to make everyone become more conscious. Of course, that would be wonderful, because there'd be much more peace on our planet. But you can't push nature and you can't force it. And in fact, doing so, trying to push your own agendas onto other people is actually an unconscious way to behave. So it's all happening in divine timing, to my mind.
Mm-hmm. Don't you feel that there is a sense of obligation, though, to, even though you and I and whoever's listening probably knows that you can't make somebody conscious, like you said, but once one gets a little taste, a little glimpse into that other wavelength of being a human being, it's like you want to, right? Like I wish I could help others in that way. Like I really wish I could give a little bit of what I got, even though there's nothing to get. But just from while we're speaking, I wish I could just help everybody else to see the light in a way, right? So do you feel as though there's like, once you kind of get almost initiated into that path, that you have to like help others along the way, like kind of carry the torch along like your path becomes guiding others to the path in a way?
It does, but not for the reason or the agenda to awaken other people, not because there's an obligation to do that, but just because that's your preferred way to live.
So it's easier for you, like it actually is like more fulfilling for you, as Louise, as we see you, it's actually more fulfilling in your experience to do that, but you don't do it because you want to look cool or anything. It's just like, it just is.
No, that would be the conceptual self trying to take over the experience and make it into an idea of me and what I should do and how I should be living and what I need to do.
Yeah.
And it's sneaky like that. So you've got to be vigilant. But just by embodying the teachings and living it and walking it, it affects the environment and other people as a natural consequence. So there's no effort required. The only dedication that's required is the dedication to one's own inner experience and one's own path of alignment with truth.
Yeah, I agree. So how do you, and I know it's probably circumstantial, but how do you guide others to that sense of capital T truth within? I know it probably depends on the person and, like I said, the situation, but if you could give a little example of how you would go about that, can you do that?
Yeah. So I would say bring all your attention fully present into this moment right now, and just become aware of your body breathing. And the first thing that you then might notice is that you're not actually breathing. You're aware of the body and it's breathing by itself. So you don't need to do anything to make it breathe. You're just witnessing the breathing happening. And then you can become aware that sounds are appearing and you're not doing anything to make them appear. You're just witnessing sounds. And thoughts are appearing. And there's no I that's thinking these thoughts. There's just you, awareness, aware of the thoughts as they come and they go. And if you bring your attention into the body, you'll notice that maybe there's emotions or energies or sensations present. And you're not doing that either. They're just appearing too. And you're here as a witness to all of this phenomena. You're the subject, and this phenomena are objects. Now, these objects are constantly changing. The thoughts change, they come and they go. The sounds change, they come and they go. Now, if you look and ask yourself what's here that's aware of these changes but never changes itself, then it becomes clear. Me, awareness. I'm that which is aware.
It's to become aware of awareness.
Yes, to become aware that you are awareness.
Mm-hmm.
And you're witnessing constantly. So from here, you can start to tune into or sense a background stillness. It's kind of like a field of presence underlying any experience. Now, the practice is to hold your attention there and to keep bringing your attention back to that. That's all it comes down to, really. It's a subtle shift in the focus of our attention. Now, most people have their attention focused on the constant stream of thought. And it's so focused there that there's complete identification with it and the belief that I am these thoughts. Through this practice and inquiring into what is aware of the thoughts, we discover this deeper dimension where there's pure consciousness here and no thought, just awareness aware.
It's beautiful. Wow. Voice is so calming. Yeah. It's always there. It's always peace. It's always here.
Yes. And it is beautiful. So once it's been glimpsed or tasted, then there's a knowing that it's real, it exists. And that's all it takes for most people, that taste or that glimpse.
Yeah.
And from there, usually there's no turning back. Like, it's always here, it's always accessible, it's always available. And what happens when we discover it is actually ignites a process, which can be a lifelong process that takes place on the physical level. And that's a process of deep healing and transformation, a process of integration. And even in the most challenging moments of that, maybe some deep childhood traumas come up to be healed. If I ask people, like, would you want to turn back and not know about this? So far, not one person has said, yeah, I wish I could turn back, no matter how challenging it is. Because it just brings so much beauty, so much more meaning into life.
Do you think that essence is what most of these old belief systems, religions are kind of getting at? Maybe even when one utters the word God, it is that essence that we're touching upon, that sense of peace that's been inside of all of us.
Yeah, I haven't studied religions too much, but from what I've seen, I think let's say most of the religions express this truth in one way or another. Like Jesus said, I am the Son of God. And what I think he was saying is that, like, I am an extension of this divinity. I'm an extension of this source energy.
Yep.
But I think the people misunderstood what he was saying and they thought that he's something special. What they didn't realize is we're all sons and daughters of God. We're all extensions of the divine.
Yeah.
Um, what the religion or the religious teaching that feels really clear to me is the Dzogchen teachings in Buddhism.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I've read some of those and they're incredibly profound and feel incredibly clear. Many of the Judeo-Christian religions have distortions that I think have come through mistranslations or misunderstandings of the original teachings.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. But I think if one looks with a keen eye, they'll be able to see through the distortions and through the translations of what the masters are actually really getting at. And yeah, that's just my
Yes,
personal experience. But I think people can know what I'm saying when I say that.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, it's beautiful. So in that in that wavelength, in that essence, essentially, we're all the same thing, right? Like me and you, even though it appears I'm on this side of the camera, you're on that side where you are. This is just a phenomena, and the listener is where the listener is. Essentially, this is just like a movie of life. This is like God's play. But essentially, really, at a deeper aspect, we are all the same thing, right? We're all just this. We're all God, essentially, like you just said. But we're like an extension of God. Like we're not at this point in time, we're not all of God, even though we kind of are. It's like it's both at the same time. We're like we are all the one, but at the same time we're separate. It's Brahman and Atman. But it's like essentially when it comes down to it, we're all I'm you, you're me. Right? It's just this beautiful dance,
Yes.
and we're acting like we're not. Like we're acting. It's almost like this game. Like we're acting like everybody, not just me and you. Like we're all acting like we're not. Like Ramdas says, like treat everybody like God and drag. That's how I try to live my life. I
Yeah.
try to reside at that. I try to be at that at all times. And yeah, it's just funny to me. I don't know. It's just funny that like God's playing a trick on himself by putting himself in different costumes. But essentially, when it really comes down to it, at the end of the day, I'm you, you're me, and we're just having some fun here. And I know it's not fun because there's a lot of suffering, but with one can see with the right perspective that the suffering, oh, it sounds weird. The suffering is part of the fun. I know that's not right, and I wouldn't say that to somebody who's truly suffering, but you can kind of grasp what I'm trying to say. It's all just this like it's all a show. It's all this illusion of Maya that's happening. Just phenomena. It's just coming and going, a passing by. And ultimately, like you said, that stillness resides. It's always there. It's always here, literally. Within the vantage point of me and you, it's literally that stillness that goes beyond words. Obviously my words aren't doing it justice right now, but it's I'm trying to point it, I'm trying to be the finger pointing at the moon right now. It's there. I'm pointing at the moon. It's there. It's here within all of us, always at all times. It's just like don't get lost. Don't get lost in the phenomena. And I think that's the path, right? Is to really decondition ourselves from the phenomena, the movie of life, and to remember this truer essence that we all are. It's a next stage. I see it as like an evolution in consciousness. We came from the one, we separated into the billions of egos, and now we're returning back to this oneness, this God essence, yet still remaining separate. It's this simultaneous play. It's hard to explain. I mean, that's non-duality if you really want to put a word on it. But it's like we're all these separate nodes of God that are remembering that they're God. And thus from that, the only other thing that we can do is love, right? I mean, that's why people say, like, all you need is love, is because once I recognize that you're me and I'm you, like, what other choice do we have than to love each other? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. I'm kind of getting a little ahead of myself right here, but but where's the importance of love for you? Is love in that stillness? Is that what comes about? I guess you can say from that stillness is an essence of love for the fellow human being and yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you hit the nail on the head. That ultimately that's what it comes down to, this love that loves to love itself in its multitudes of form.
Mm-hmm.
And it brings about such a shift in the way that reality is perceived when we relate to another being through a filter of separation and perceive them as separate from me, as opposed to recognizing the divinity in that being, the aliveness, the underlying essence that is the same essence that is here, not even in me, as me, it is me.
Yeah.
So that recognition is everything. It is not possible to harm, to hurt. There's just appreciation and love for all the different aspects of me.
Mm-hmm.
Like if a tree recognized that all its different branches are part of itself, it would never cut off its own branches. So, but if it saw every branch is something separate and different, then it could be afraid of them and start fighting with them. That's how most people perceive others, as an other, something separate.
Yeah.
So if it's easier actually with dogs or trees or plants to sense that essence, because most humans have a thick veil of conditioning overlying the essence. So if you look into the eyes of your dog or a baby, or sit by a flower and feel the aliveness of it, it's much clearer because there isn't that veil there.
Yeah.
And when you can start to attune to it with animals or babies or nature, then and recognize it in yourself by becoming still inside, then you can see it in every human being, no matter how thick that veil of seeming separation.
Mm-hmm. And like you said, once you see it, once you get the glimpse, you can't unsee it. You can't. There's no. I mean,
No.
you could try, but why would you? You know. Now, do you foresee a future human civilization where we are all on that wavelength? Billions of us recognizing that we're all in this together. We're all the same thing, because it's the truth, right? It's the capital T truth that once you get the taste of, you can't let go of. So how much longer can humans hide from the truth? Because right now it seems like that's what we're doing. We're just on this hamster wheel of suffering because we are hiding from our true essence of believing that we're all the same thing. We're all in this together. So do you foresee a future we're all in the same wavelength, or is there a place for the darkness in a way to wake us up to the light?
I think the internet has been a pivotal turning point in assisting the evolution of human consciousness, because that's allowed the global dissemination of this information. So it's much more accessible to us now. What once were kind of secret teachings, or you had to travel to India to find some guru that knew about these teachings. Now you just open YouTube and you have thousands of videos of
Watch a
people
podcast.
sharing. Yes, watch a podcast. These teachings. So that I think has really given a boost. At the same time, there's a lot of unconsciousness in our society, and I don't know which way it's gonna go. Sometimes it feels a bit like we're at a fork in the road. Is it gonna be, we'll take this disastrous path of self-destruction and destroying our planet and we'll become extinct? Or will we awaken to our true nature and create heaven on earth? I have a preference, but I don't know which way it's gonna go.
I believe we'll reach the heaven, but it's just like, what are we gonna have to go through to be at that heaven-like state? Because, like I said, it's our nature. Like, it's literally the truth. And I know that sounds so corny and cliche, but what other way am I gonna say it? Like, it is the truth of what it means to be a human being. This kingdom of heaven within, and then we create the kingdom of heaven without. But I don't know how we get there. It doesn't seem realistic, right? Just thinking about it right now, and like you said, we're at that fork. It might take 100 years, 1,000 years, tens of thousands of years, but I think eventually humans will get to this golden age. Some call it the Sat Yuga. There's something in me, like a pull, that seems like it's just inevitable. I don't think it's gonna happen anytime soon, unfortunately. Maybe, who knows? Hopefully I'm wrong. But I do foresee a future that might have also been our past. But I do foresee a future in a linear sense where we are all on that wavelength. And what is that going to look like at a material level? Unfathomable. It's just unconceivable what the world will look like at that point. But I can feel it. Like, there's something in my heart that yearns for that world. There's like, it just seems like there's no other way to go about it. I don't know. I guess it doesn't really matter. It really doesn't matter, to really think about concepts like that. All that matters is that you find that kingdom of heaven within oneself, and whatever, like we said, whatever happens on the outside world in this illusion of Maya and Prakriti, it'll happen and just be like another scene in the movie, and then we'll reach that golden age of humanity whenever the divine timing wills it. It's not up to me as Gary. I guess it's just part of the show. Yeah.
It seems to me like nature shows us the deeper truth of reality. So if we look at the seasons, for example, we have these 4 seasons, and we go through winter where everything's dark and dreary and there's no leaves on the trees. It feels like death in a way. And from there, it transitions into the beginning of a rebirth where things start to come into blossom and bloom. And then we reach the summer with like the peak, with everything open, the flowers open, sunshine and light and brightness. And then it continues through the fall back to that darkness of winter. So it could be that human consciousness has a similar cycle, and we move through periods of extreme darkness. And if that's the case, it might be that right now we're in a kind of a springtime where there's some opening happening, there's some blossoming of human consciousness. If you compare to like Jesus's time, he let's say he was a flower that bloomed way ahead of his time. He spoke these truths and got crucified. But now, many people are interested in meditation and yoga and mindfulness. It's becoming more common. There's this opening. So what you call the golden age could be that summertime. And then I wouldn't be surprised if it moves back in another cycle. I don't know. But underlying the cycle is the unchanging divine, which is not separate from the cycle. The formless and the form are one. So some people might think, oh, if we get to this peak golden age, or if we get to summer, then everything will be great. Like that's where we have to get to. And it's a bit like the same movement in the individual life, where one thinks, if I get X, Y, Z, then I'll be happy. Then we'll have made it. Then we'll be there. But we're actually there here now in the discovery that underlying the changing cycles or movements, what we seek is here. So the golden age is here, like you quoted Jesus, in the kingdom of heaven is within each one of us right now. That's the golden age.
I like that.
The ultimate golden age.
I like that. That's awesome. It's here and now. Always is, always will be, always was. You know what? We can probably wrap it up at that. That's a wonderful point to wrap it up at. Do you have any last words for the world? Anything you want to say?
Last words? I would like to invite people to take a moment to look if what's being spoken here during this podcast is actually the truth in your own experience, not just to listen to it like some entertainment, like, okay, I've watched that, now let's have dinner, now let's watch something else, like consuming it, but and not just to believe it, like just take it on as mental information, but to really look in your own experience if it's the truth, like you're looking for the first time, even if you listen to 100 podcasts or YouTube videos speaking about this subject. Really stop and see what's here beyond thought, beyond your mind, what's here now that's aware. And what is the nature of that? And is that separate from you? So that's my invitation for people. And if they look and then there's something they want to explore there, or questions come up, they're welcome to join my open Zoom meetings that I do on Sundays.
Wonderful, Louise. Yeah, I'll link everything down in the description for anybody that's listening or watching. But yeah, this was a great talk. I really appreciate your time, energy, and wisdom. Keep doing your thing. Your voice, your energy is just so calming, so grounding. And you probably get that all the time. You probably already know that. But yeah, keep doing your thing. Like I said, I appreciate your energy, time, and wisdom. But other than that, peace and love. Peace and love to everybody. And thank you.
Thanks. It's been a pleasure talking to you.